Just a little logistics for everybody. Lunch will be served in the Jade Room when we conclude the morning session. That's the room right next door behind me. Those of you who are listening on the web, I think unless you can get here quickly, you won't be joining us for lunch. So we'll be doing lunch next door, and we'll have the questions, and there will be coffee is served out in the corridor if you wish to help yourself to that. Our next, I will call on our Executive Director of the Commission for Environmental Cooperation, Evan Lloyd, to give a few remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Just in case you were wondering, I hope that over the course of the day you don't get drowned with too many acronyms, but the JPAC, for those of you who may not have deciphered this, is the Joint Public Advisory Committee, one of three constituent bodies of the Commission for Environmental Cooperation. So thank you again to the JPAC, to our distinguished panelists, to everyone who has joined us here today, and of course to all of those who may be joining us via the internet in terms of this webcast. Bonjour et bienvenido a todos. If you've looked at the agenda and considering the depth of expertise that has been assembled for the various panels today, it's evident that we'll very quickly get into some of the key issues concerning the future of the North American energy market and related carbon management issues and challenges, opportunities. In a few moments that are available to me this morning, however, I just want to provide some context to underline the remarks of Glenn as he has just made them, but specifically to put this meeting and this procedure into the context of the Commission for Environmental Cooperation. As you may know, the CEC was established as an adjunct to the North American Free Trade Agreement. Our mission is to facilitate collaboration and public participation, to foster conservation, enhancement of the North American environment, for the benefit of future generations, and all in the context of growing and increasing trade and social links among Canada, Mexico, and the United States. Recently, the top environmental officials of our three countries, the CEC's Council, met to chart a new direction, a strategic direction for the CEC. And in the doing of that, they set some key priorities for the Commission and for each of them collectively. And those priorities over the next 5 years were articulated as a focus on climate change and the transition to a low-carbon economy, greening North America's economy, and working on healthy communities and ecosystems. And one of the principal means by which the CEC can assist our parties in moving along this path is to identify areas where national efforts in support of these priorities can be amplified or expedited by means of trilateral cooperation, enhancing policy coordination and collaboration with respect to appropriate levels of environmental standards and management. And in this regard, even though our focus is global, the fact of the matter is that being here in British Columbia is a significant opportunity for us and for those of you who may be joining us this morning. British Columbia in many ways represents a case study of the impacts of global climate change and one government's attempt to mitigate its direct consequences. BC in some areas, as you may know, has experienced a temperature warming rate more than twice the global average. And one consequence has been a devastating infestation of mountain pine beetles, killing much of BC's productive forest assets and already costing billions of dollars and massive social dislocation. At the same time, a record number of wildfires and floods has threatened communities throughout BC. Now, partly as a consequence of this, British Columbia has put in place a policy response in terms of an array of policy and other regulatory measures to equip the state, its citizens, and its industries to respond to climate change and to seek opportunity in the transition to a low-carbon economy. No doubt we'll hear more of this today from our various panels, but it should be noted that these initiatives include a broad-based carbon tax, a legislative requirement for the core government and public sector to be carbon neutral by 2010, a commitment that all new public buildings in British Columbia be built to Green Building Standard, LEED Gold standard, a zero net deforestation policy to optimize the full carbon and storage value of the province's forests, and perhaps most relevant to today's discussion, a green electricity regulatory regime to spur development of the province's abundant renewable energy resources. And like other sub-federal governments and regions in North America, British Columbia has recognized that cooperation is essential to achieve its objectives. British Columbia was the first Canadian province to partner in the Western Climate Initiative. And while it has signed numerous binding agreements and joined formal organizations and multiple other government partners in North America and elsewhere covering emission trading systems, transmission planning, fuel standards, there remain barriers and challenges to the full development of its renewable energy potential. And our first panel, of course, will cover this in much more detail, but let me conclude by noting that apart from the very real and physical challenge presented by transmission capacity, a significant barrier to the growth of a North American market for clean and renewable electrical power are inconsistent or even incompatible public policies that extend across all three of our countries and their sub-federal regimes. And to that end, I trust that our discussion today will be helpful to the Public Advisory Committee members who are here with us today in supporting them in their job, which is, of course, to provide advice to the Council and to the work of the Commission for Environmental Cooperation. And so I once again thank you for your participation, to the panelists for their willingness to join us here today on this important topic, and I wish you the best with respect to your deliberations. Thank you very much.